Hi dears, how are you? I hope that everything is all right and the spring has come. I hope that you are positive or at least more positive than we were all during this cold, long winter, and we are waiting for everything in blossom. Yes, first flowers, green grass, first leaves in the trees and things like that. I told you earlier that I have several playlists and English basic grammar is among them. And for everybody and for those who subscribed a little bit later, not from the first videos that I started published on YouTube, I would like to remind about questions. I decided to unite 3 different lessons into one because questions is a very important part of speech. We can speak in the form of a monologue, yes, when you just tell somebody something like a story. But we also can speak in the form of dialogue or polylogue. And in this situation, we have to not only to answer yes questions but also to ask them. So it's very important, maybe even essential, yes, to know how to ask questions, different types of questions. There are not only yes no questions, yes, that I usually give in the playlist English basic grammar. So try to be a little bit more patient, yes, and I highly recommend you watching not only just the first part of the video, but to watch it from the very beginning till the end. And you can even pause the video, turn down the sound so that you can't hear my voice. Pause the video and try to explain the tables, the schemes yourselves. And if you can do it, then you really know how to ask questions, yes, not just watching but also try to do something. And in the description below the video there will be some links to the Google Forms to check your knowledge, to check your understanding in this question. So I think that we can start. Good luck. So once more, watch it, not just the first part but from the very beginning till the end. And of course, if you have some questions, if you couldn't understand something, you can always write your question in the comments and subscribe to the channel. So let's start. Hello, English basic grammar. Lesson 12. Today we are going to speak about questions. The first part, for, to be and modal verbs. Speaking about questions, first of all, it's necessary to remember about question words. Now let's look at them. Who and what. Who only for people. Pay attention to this fact. For example, who are you? What is it? What as a part of expression, question expression. What film? What color? What music? What color is your car? When for time, where for place, why for reason. Examples: when is the concert, where are you, why is she that serious, how old it's about age, how old is your brother, how many, how much for quantity, how many for countable nouns and how much for uncountable nouns. Example: how many books are there on the table, how long is about length or a period of time. How long is the lesson? Now, will you please pay attention to the underlined words? The golden rule for questions is hidden here. In questions, the auxiliary verb is always before the subject. The exceptions are the questions to the subject and the structures there is, there are, there was, there were. In these structures, you just make it vice versa. Is there, are there, was there, were there. There are 5 types of questions: yes-no questions, alternative questions, why questions, questions about the subject, and tag questions. Now let's look at the example. The sentence is: the books are on the table. The verb to be are. Now we know that the verb to be starts the question. Are the books on the table? Yes, no question. If you know how to ask the yes-no question, it's easy to ask alternative question because the beginning is the same. Are the books on the table or on the shelf? In why questions, you put the question word in front of the yes-no question. Where are the books? You shouldn't here mention about the table. Yes, you just ask where are the books. Questions for the subject are the easiest ones. Instead of the subject, you just put the words who or what, but pay attention here, you should use the singular noun. So, what is on the table? We don't ask what are, what is on the table. And the tag question, the books are on the table, aren't they? Now let me explain how to ask tag questions. There are two parts, the statement and the question itself. Now pay attention to this fact. If the statement is positive, then the question or tag is negative. Example, the book is interesting, isn't it? If the statement is negative, then the question tag is positive. The book isn't interesting, is it? So the tag consists of an auxiliary verb with not in contraction or without it, and the pronoun that replaces the subject. Pay attention, only the pronoun. Examples. It's a cat, isn't it? Your mother isn't a teacher, is she? There are books on the table, aren't there? Pay attention. If we have structures there is, there are, then in the tag you should use these words, but vice versa. Isn't there? Aren't there? If it is negative tag. And note, for the pronoun I, the tag can be either aren't I or am I not. I'm at home, aren't I? Or I'm at home, am I not? Now let me remind you in which structures we use to be. It can be a main verb, am, is, are in present, was, were in past. Structures there is, there are, and in the past there was, there were. In present continuous, am, is, are plus verb in ing form, and in past continuous, was, were plus verb in ing form. To be is also used for present simple continuous and past simple continuous in the passive voice, but we are going to speak about the passive voice later. Now let's look at the examples. For the main verb to be, is he a doctor? Was he a doctor 10 years ago? For there is, there are, there was, there were. Were there lots of trees in the forest? Present continuous. Is he reading now? What are you doing now? And past continuous. Were you watching TV or reading a book at 7 o'clock yesterday? She was reading a book, wasn't she? You can see that I gave different kinds of questions for you just to understand that it's not necessary to ask all 5 types of questions each time. The modal verbs don't show us an action itself. They just show the attitude to this action, the ability, possibility, permission, obligation. The words like can, could, should, may, might, must. For the basic level, I think it's enough. Now let's look at the examples. For example, the sentence, I can swim well, and questions. Can you swim well? Yes, no question. Can you swim or dance well? Alternative question. What can you do well? Why question. Who can swim well? The question to the subject. You can swim well, can't you? Tag question. Pay attention, please. The modal verbs are in front of the subject. Can you? The exception is the question to the subject. Who can swim well? So we use who instead of the subject, and then we just write the sentence. Who can swim well? Other modals. Could. Could you swim or dance well at the age of 6? Should. What should I do? May. May I use your pen? Might. Who might be there? Must. We must learn these words, mustn't we? And now let's practice. The task is ask all 5 types of the questions for these 7 sentences. Pause the video, take as much time as you need, and pay attention for the last line. For checking, use the Google form below the video in the section description. Hello, English basic grammar again with you. We continue to speak about questions, and today the second part, simple present and past simple, or auxiliary verbs do, does, did. Okay, let's start with the question. Do you remember this table from the video about the simple present that we watched before that? Let's pay attention, special attention to the column which is called yes-no questions. And we can see that the questions start with do or does. Do for the pronouns I, we, you, they, and does for he, she, it. After do and does, we use the subject of the question or the sentence and the verb in the first form. So once more, pay attention. The verb with ending s we use only in the affirmative sentences for pronouns he, she, it. When we use do or does, we use this first form of the main verb. You can see the examples. The first sentence, they like swimming, for the pronouns I, we, you, they, and we can see that we should use here the auxiliary verb do. So yes-no question. Do starts the question. Do you remember this? Do they like swimming? If we know how to ask this question, yes-no question, so alternative question will be the same, the beginning. Do they like swimming or dancing? In why questions, we use the question word in front of the do. Why do they like swimming? For the question to subject, we don't use do or does, and if you can remember, I told you that this question is for the subject in singular. Pay attention, who likes swimming, the verb with ending s, because it is for pronouns he, she, it, without do and does. And tag questions, they like swimming, don't they, if the first part is positive, or they don't like swimming, do they, if the first part is negative. Now does. The general idea is the same. The sentence, she likes swimming, because of the pronoun she. Yes-no question, does she like swimming? We use does, so the verb should be without any endings. Alternative question, does she like swimming or dancing? Why question, why does she like swimming? Again, question to the subject, who likes swimming, without any do and does, and the verb, the main verb, should be with ending s. And tag questions, she likes swimming, doesn't she? Or she doesn't like swimming, does she? For past simple, let's start with the table from the previous video as well. And again, the column yes-no question, so we can see that this type of question starts with did for all nouns and pronouns, then the subject of the sentence, and then the first form of the verb. Again, pay special attention. When we use did, we use the first form of the main verb, not the second. The second form of the main verb is necessary only for the affirmative sentences. Example. The sentence, they went to the park yesterday. Now let's look what there should be done for asking the questions. Yes-no question. Did they go to the park yesterday? We use the auxiliary verb did and the first form of the verb. Alternative. Did they go to the park or museum yesterday? Why question. Where did they go yesterday? The question to the subject without any did, without an auxiliary verb. So who went, and we should use the second form of the verb here. Who went to the park yesterday? Instead of the subject they, we should use who, and then we just rewrite the sentence. And two tag questions. They went to the park yesterday, didn't they? If the first part is positive. And they didn't go to the park yesterday, did they, if the first part is negative. Again, dear listeners and viewers, English Basic Grammar Lesson 14. Today questions in present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and I decided to add today future tenses. Let me remind you the structures for present perfect and present perfect continuous. You can see that in both cases we have auxiliary verbs have or has for he, she, it. In questions, it should be in front of the subject and only after the subject all the rest part of the structure. So pause the video, take your time, and try to ask all 5 types of questions for both tenses. Use this slide for checking. Pay special attention to everything that is highlighted in red and underlined. And once more pay attention. If we ask the question when in present perfect, we use a past simple. Do you remember past simple and auxiliary verb did? So when did they watch the film? Pause the video and compare everything. I hope that your answers are the same. Actually, saying your answers, I mean your questions. The same idea for past perfect and past perfect continuous. Look at the structure, read the sentences as an example, and ask 5 types of questions to each sentence. Pause the video, write down the questions, and use the next slide for checking. Pause the video, compare everything. Hope you were successful. Well, future tenses. The same groups: future simple, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous. In the second line, you can see the structures of these tenses, then the examples for these tenses, and you can understand that for questions it's necessary to put will in front of the subject and then all the rest part of the sentence. So will you please look at the examples and pay special attention that will not, it is won't in contraction. Pause the video, take as much time as you need and study the slide better. Thank you for watching, my dears. Hope that now you can ask all questions that you would like. See you next time. Bye.